My parents' relationship had been a source of happiness for me since I could remember. But everything started to change when my dad joined his new company. His once flexible schedule became jam-packed with back-to-back meetings and endless projects. He would return home late at night, often in a grumpy and bad mood. He's also one to blow up easily anytime. I guess the workload and stress caught up to him then. As I lay in my bed, I often heard heated arguments erupting from my parents' room. The hushed whispers turned into full-blown shouting matches, and it was impossible to ignore the absolute chaos every other night. I couldn't comprehend what was going on between them, but it left me feeling helpless and confused. I tried asking my mom what had happened, but she reassures me everything was fine, every time. In the midst of this turmoil, my dad remained my rock. He might have been physically absent most of the time, but when he was around, he made sure to shower me with love and laughter. His understanding, caring nature, and endless supply of humor were my solace. He would playfully joke with me, and occasionally he'd surprise me with thoughtful gifts that never failed to bring a smile to my face. In stark contrast, my mom seemed to have transformed into a different person. She became overly serious, sticking to a rigid routine and rarely indulging in laughter or playfulness. The atmosphere at home grew increasingly uncomfortable and mundane. A year later, my parents' relationship crumbled completely, ending up in a bitter divorce. I was utterly heartbroken, unable to comprehend why the two people I loved most couldn't make things work. The worst part of all was that I couldn't see my dad anymore. He claimed that he doesn't want anything to do with us no more. I was shell-shocked, but I keep telling myself that there must be a reason. His absence in my life totally changed me. I didn't know where he was, and I had no way to contact him. I need to get the answers that I needed. He didn't reach out either. And every time I wanted to see him, my mom would repeatedly deny my request. In my eyes, she was slowly becoming the enemy, the one who was keeping me away from the person I wanted to be with. Gradually, I retreated into my shell, seeking refuge in the comfort of my room after returning home from school. I also stopped talking to my mom as much, and our once strong connection started to fade. Then something nobody saw coming occurred. My mom got really sick, and her health kept getting worse really fast. She went to a bunch of doctors for help, but none of them could figure out what was wrong. We were all feeling pretty desperate and frustrated at home. During that tough time, my grandparents pitched in to take care of both my mom and me. But no matter how hard they tried, my mom's health kept getting worse. She ended up in bed all the time, and her once strong body became weak and fragile. After months of going through all that pain, my mom eventually passed away, leaving me in a depth of grief I'd never experienced before. That day left a painful mark on my heart, and I mourned the loss of the one person who had always been there for me. Life went on, but I still missed my dad deeply. Then one day, while I was out shopping with my grandparents, I saw him at the mall. I felt a surge of excitement mixed with nervousness as I walked up to him, but he didn't seem like the dad I remembered. He looked distant, almost like a stranger. I shared with him the news of Mom's passing and how much I'd missed him, but he just brushed it off, blaming his absence on his demanding job. I couldn't comprehend how he could be so cold and indifferent about our time apart. She was also once the love of his life, isn't it? While we chatted for a short while, a woman with a really unwelcoming vibe walked up to us. My dad proudly announced that she was his new wife, my stepmom. Her cold, unfriendly eyes gave me the creeps. The whole encounter felt strange and made me uncomfortable. She then got my phone number and said we'd go out for lunch someday. It seemed like a tiny glimmer of hope, a chance to reconnect with my dad. But her being around made me feel uncertain and uneasy. Then, the day of that long-awaited lunch came, and I couldn't have been more excited. But when I asked my grandma if I could go, she firmly said no, sensing that something was wrong. I was determined, so I sneaked out to meet my dad and stepmom. We went to a fancy restaurant, and the food was amazing. I questioned him on why he left us both, but he seemed like he was oblivious to it. I didn't want to miss this reunion with him, and so I continue eating and wanting to make the most out of this meeting. Once we're done, before I leave, my stepmom gave me a necklace with a really cute pendant. The pendant had a strange smell, but it was so beautiful that I couldn't resist it. It was like a magnet drawing me in. I couldn't bear to remove it, so I wore it around my neck all the time. Soon enough, my life became a nightmare, as I started having terrifying dreams every single night. In these recurring nightmares, an unidentified woman relentlessly shoved me down a towering flight of stairs, causing me to crash to the ground with a painful thud. Each time I'd wake up with my heart racing and my body drenched in sweat. The never-ending torment left me completely drained, and getting a decent night's sleep became an impossible feat. At that time, I totally didn't suspect that the pendant was the problem. My health took a nosedive. Falling asleep became a struggle. My body grew weaker, and I lost all interest in food. Breathing felt like so hard. One evening during dinner with my grandparents, I suddenly felt nauseated and dashed to the bathroom, vomiting for a minute straight. My body turned icy cold, and I couldn't stop shaking. Despite my grandparents' best efforts to warm me up, nothing seemed to help. My grandpa rushed me to the hospital where they conducted a battery of tests and even tried an IV drip, but the doctors couldn't find any physical ailment. They eventually sent me back home, but the mystery of my condition lingered. Back at home, my grandma sensed that something was seriously wrong. She had a gut feeling and decided to press me for the truth. I had no choice but to spill everything, including the necklace given to me by my stepmom. My grandma's face turned pale, and she acted swiftly to remove the necklace. She shared a horrifying revelation with me. My stepmom was the daughter of a notorious witch. She explained that this wicked witchcraft had played a sinister role in tearing my parents apart and causing my mom's untimely death. This is why my mom doesn't want to get me involved, for she is afraid that she might harm me too. That explains my sudden decline in health I'd experienced, and now she also had sinister plans to harm me for reconnecting with my dad. With no time to spare, my grandma reached out to her network and summoned pastors to our home. They prayed fervently, getting rid of whatever spirit or curse that was terrorizing me. Gradually, a sense of relief washed over me. The nightmares stopped, and I feel like I could breathe freely once more. The pastors left, taking the necklace and disposing them. A month later, my health began to show signs of improvement. I could finally sleep without the nightmares, and my strength slowly returned. Word reached us my stepmom's mother met a gruesome end, struck down by a truck with her body parts scattered. Her head remained missing to this day. As for my stepmom, she fell prey to stage 4 uterus cancer, confined to her bed and hospitalized. She passed away a few days later, and it felt like karma had finally caught up with them for her deeds. It also seems like immediately the curse was broken, and Dad has came back to his senses. He quickly got in touch with me and arranged for a meetup. Once we've met up with each other, Dad explains that he's in daze and confusion all of the time. It must be the curse that controlled or bewitched him. We both poured and cried our hearts out. In the end, we made the decision to stay together and never to leave each other out of our sight anymore. Overwhelmed with guilt and sorrow, we both visited Mom's grave with my grandparents. Once there, Dad fell on his knees and wailed uncontrollably, begging for forgiveness. Tears streamed down my face as I, too, do the same. I wished she could see the truth, that she had only been trying to shield me from the unknown forces that had haunted our family. My heart ached for not spending more time with her and for misunderstanding her actions. How we wished that she's still around. "I'm so sorry, Mom," I whispered through my tears. "Please forgive me. You can finally rest in peace." Hey friends, thanks for listening. Look forward, subscribe, and click on the notification bell for more future stories. Also, share your thoughts in the comments below. Got any stories to share? Feel free to send us your stories through the email provided in the description. Peace.